Welcome back to Visceral, and today we're going to talk about Graham Repulski. A lot of these video review pieces that we do on Visceral, I often pick a bigger record or something that I feel like has probably got a really sizable fan base that maybe we can tap into and talk about that specific piece. I doubt Graham Repulski is going to be one of those figures. In fact, he's a pretty kind of small artist, but one that's been making some really cool stuff for many, many years, and I wanted to share some of it with you today. So who is Graham Repulski? As far as I know, he's a musician who lives in Philadelphia. He's originally from New Jersey, and he just puts out lots and lots of music. A lot of it is available on Bandcamp, but there's some small labels that put out some of the stuff as well. I know he does a lot of self-releases. In fact, a lot of the stuff that I showed you at the very beginning of the show, these are just small little short-run tapes that he puts out and sends out to people. It's really interesting stuff, especially if you are a fan of Guided by Voices from the mid 1990s. Guided by Voices at that era was pretty lo-fi. Graham Repulski is even more lo-fi. You got to imagine these things are being recorded on like his, elementary teacher's Tascam tape recorder or something like that. So while he has some newer records out, I actually want to talk about a 2016 record that he put out. I have the CD here. This is Graham Repulski's High on Mount Misery. It's a really great 4-track, EP or album. It's kind of hard to say because a lot of his music is kind of like little snippets, or they're almost like a sketch of an idea, where you can imagine maybe this is someone who's putting out some demos and just throwing down some ideas, and then they'll refine those in the studio or with their band later. That's not how Graham Repulski works. It's going to be those little snippets, those little ideas, even if they seem incomplete. That's what you're going to get on those records. The first track I want to share off this record is the very first song, track called White Leper, and I think it's just a great introduction to his music because it's catchy, it's fuzzy, it's definitely lo-fi, but it also does feel like a pop song, or at least if you were to take away some of the harsher elements, you'd really see like, okay, this is a pop guitar jam. It's right there for you. Favorite song is track number 3. It's one called Clown Phoenix, and this one is interesting as well because this is the kind of music that you make when you're trying to experiment with tape loops and you have maybe some different vocals that are layered on top of each other to build some sense of harmony. It's got this acoustic guitar piece that is very soothing and soft, and yet, like a lot of his music, it's like a little bit of a sketch where it's going, and then there's just an abrupt stop, and that's the end of the whole track. So this next one, Von Hayes, this is not Graham Repulski, obviously, but he's in this group, and this is his band. And to be honest, you couldn't really tell much of a difference between Graham Repulski and this. It's still that really fuzzed out, blown out, lo-fi type of music. But this is a great CD as well, and I think it actually really benefits from having the fact that there might be multiple contributors here and different people bringing some of the ideas to this really bizarre lo-fi sound. My favorite track is the 6th song on the record, a track called Little Terry, and there's 3 R's in there. It just has that catchy vocals, that mid-pace, fuzzy guitar licks, and even though the guitar seems pretty melodic and poppy for most of it, that's until you get to the solo that comes a bit later in the track, and then you get to really see this is what a very bizarre kind of guitar solo in a pop song would sound. My second favorite track on this is a track called The Thing She Handed Down. And one of the things that's going to stand out to you is going to be the vocals, which have been pitched up or they played with the tape speed there. So it's a little uncomfortable when you're listening to it, or at least it doesn't sound like it should. And that's part of the appeal, I think, of Graham Repulski and obviously it with Von Hayes as well. And lastly, I want to share another track called Negative Blanks. And this is almost like a dance song. This is a track that's built with maybe a Casio keyboard with the drums that are built into that. And it just has this very odd pitched vocals, piercing guitar hooks. It's just an odd piece, but it really stands out. It's something that I can say I don't know of many other bands that make something that sounds like this. Go check out Graham Repulski and many of his releases that he puts out on Bandcamp or even some of his other bands like Von Hayes. It's really interesting stuff. I really recommend that people at least give it a couple minutes. And the great thing about Graham Repulski is that a lot of these songs are pretty short. Like I said before, they're almost like little sketches, some of them like a minute long. So you can hear one of these records in about 10 to 15 minutes. So give it a shot.